The hallway stretched endlessly before me, its plush carpet muffling my frantic footsteps. My heart hammered against my ribs as I glanced over my shoulder for the third time in 30 seconds. Derek was still there, weaving through the crowd near the hotel bar, his eyes scanning for me like a predator tracking prey. I shouldn't have come to this gala. I knew he'd be here. Everyone in Chicago's financial district attended the annual charity event at the Sinclair Grand. But my boss insisted, and refusing would have raised too many questions. Now I was paying the price for my optimism, believing I could avoid my ex-husband for one evening in a ballroom packed with 500 people. The elevator dinged behind me. I didn't have time to wait for the next one. Derek was getting closer, his expensive suit jacket flashing between the marble columns as he pushed past a waiter. My breath came in short gasps, panic tightening around my throat like a vice. Room 1247. The door appeared on my left, slightly ajar, a sliver of warm light spilling into the corridor. I didn't think. I couldn't afford to. My hand shot out, pushing the door open as I slipped inside, pressing my back against the solid wood the moment it clicked shut behind me. Silence enveloped me. The room was dimly lit. Elegant. Far more luxurious than any hotel room I'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Chicago skyline, the city lights reflecting off Lake Michigan in the distance. A king-sized bed dominated the space, its dark navy linens perfectly arranged. Everything screamed money and power. "You have exactly 3 seconds to explain why you're in my suite." The voice cut through the darkness like a blade. Low, controlled, and absolutely lethal. I spun around, my hand flying to my chest as my eyes adjusted to the shadows. He stood near the window, a silhouette carved from darkness itself. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. As he stepped into the light, my breath caught. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been sculpted from marble. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, and eyes so intensely green they seemed to glow in the dim lighting. But it wasn't his beauty that froze me in place. It was the gun in his hand, pointed directly at my chest. I'm sorry, I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to intrude. I was running from someone and the door was open and The door was locked. His tone didn't rise, but something in it made my skin prickle. Which means you either have a key card that doesn't belong to you, or you're lying. No, I swear it was open. Just a crack. I pushed it and I pressed myself harder against the door, my mind racing. Please, I'll leave right now. I'm sorry for disturbing you. My hand reached for the door handle behind me, but before I could turn it, he moved. In 3 strides, he crossed the distance between us, his free hand slamming against the door beside my head. The gun remained steady, now inches from my collarbone. Up close, he was even more intimidating, at least 6'3", with the kind of presence that demanded submission without saying a word. "Who are you running from?" he asked, his eyes searching my face with an intensity that made me feel exposed. "And don't lie to me again. I can always tell." "My ex-husband," I whispered, the truth spilling out before I could stop it. "He's been following me all night. I tried to lose him downstairs, but he wouldn't stop, and I panicked and—" My voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I know this looks insane. I'll go. Please just let me go." Something shifted in his expression. Not softness exactly, but a flicker of calculation. His gaze dropped to my left hand, noticing the pale band of skin where my wedding ring used to sit. Then to my face, studying the fear I couldn't hide. "What's your name?" "Emma. Emma Reeves." He lowered the gun slowly, though he didn't holster it. "And your ex-husband. He's dangerous?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Not physically, but he doesn't understand the word no. We've been divorced for 8 months and he still thinks he can control my life." The man tilted his head slightly, as if weighing my words against some internal metric I couldn't fathom. Then, without warning, he stepped back, creating space between us. The gun disappeared into the waistband of his pants, hidden beneath his shirt. "Stay," he said simply. "What?" "If you leave now, he'll see you in the hallway. Better to wait until the corridor clears." He moved to the minibar, pouring amber liquid into a crystal glass. "You drink whiskey?" Yes. Sometimes." My mind was reeling. Who was this man? Why was he helping me? And why did he have a gun in a hotel suite at a charity gala? He poured a second glass and crossed the room, offering it to me. Our fingers brushed as I took it, and I felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with fear. His hands were scarred, small white lines across his knuckles that spoke of violence I couldn't begin to imagine. "You're shaking," he observed, his voice quieter now, almost gentle. "You pointed a gun at me," I replied, surprised by the edge in my own voice. Most people would shake. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Fair point." He gestured to the leather chair near the window. "Sit. You look like you're about to collapse." I should have refused, should have insisted on leaving despite the risk. But something about his calm authority made me obey. I sank into the chair, grateful to be off my trembling legs, and took a sip of whiskey. It burned down my throat, warming me from the inside out. He remained standing, studying me with those unsettling green eyes. "The Sinclair Gala," he said after a moment. "You work in finance?" "Marketing for a hedge fund. Blackstone and Associates." I wrapped both hands around the glass, needing something to hold on to. "You?" "I'm here for business." The answer was deliberately vague, but I didn't press. Something told me this wasn't a man who appreciated questions. A knock at the door shattered the fragile silence. 3 sharp raps that made my heart leap into my throat. "Emma!" Derek's voice filtered through the wood, slurred with alcohol and anger. "I know you're in there. The elevator attendant saw you come up to this floor." I went rigid, every muscle in my body locking up. The man's expression didn't change, but I saw something dangerous flash in his eyes, a predatory focus that reminded me of the gun currently pressed against his spine. "Don't move," he murmured, then raised his voice. "You have the wrong room." "Bullshit," Derek pounded on the door. "Emma, get out here right now. We need to talk." "The lady doesn't want to talk to you." The man's tone was perfectly controlled, but there was steel underneath, a warning that made even me want to step back. "Who the hell are you?" Derek's voice pitched higher. "Emma, is there someone in there with you? Are you serious right now?" I started to stand, to try to defuse the situation, but the man shook his head once, a sharp, commanding gesture that pinned me in place. He moved to the door with the fluid grace of someone trained for violence. "I'm giving you 10 seconds to leave this hallway," he said through the wood. "After that, I'm calling hotel security and having you removed from the premises. Your choice." "I'm not going anywhere until I talk to my wife." "Ex-wife," I called out, finding my voice. "We're divorced, Derek. Please just leave me alone." "Fuck that. We need to talk about the settlement. You can't just—" The man opened the door so fast I didn't see him move. One moment he was standing still. The next he had the door wide open, his body filling the frame like a wall Derek couldn't possibly cross. I couldn't see my ex from where I sat, but I heard his sharp intake of breath. "She asked you to leave," the man said quietly. Lethally. "So you're going to walk away, take the elevator down to the lobby, and forget this room number exists. Understood? I don't know who you think you are, but I'm the man who's currently deciding whether this ends with you embarrassed or in a hospital. Choose wisely." The silence that followed was deafening. I held my breath, waiting for Derek to do something stupid. He had a temper, especially when he'd been drinking. But apparently, whatever he saw in the stranger's face was enough to crack his bravado. This isn't over, Emma. Derek finally spat, though his voice had lost its aggressive edge. You can't hide from me forever. Yes, she can. The man's words were final. And if I see you near her again, we'll have a very different conversation. One that doesn't end with you walking away. I heard footsteps retreating down the hallway, then the distant ding of the elevator. Only then did the man close the door, turning the deadbolt with a decisive click. He won't bother you again tonight, he said, returning to his position by the window. But men like that, they don't learn the first time. Thank you, I whispered, meaning it with every fiber of my being. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here. He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. You should get a restraining order. I have one. Derek doesn't care. His family has lawyers who make those things disappear. I took another sip of whiskey, trying to steady myself. I've tried everything. Changed my number, my email, my gym. He always finds me. Then you need someone who scares him more than his lawyers do. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I looked at this beautiful, dangerous stranger and felt something shift inside me. Curiosity mixed with fear, attraction tangled with self-preservation. Who are you? I asked quietly. He moved closer, stopping just in front of my chair. This close, I could see the small scar above his left eyebrow, the way his shirt strained across his shoulders. He smelled like cedar and smoke, expensive and utterly masculine. Someone who can help you, he said, if you're willing to trust me. I don't even know your name. Dominic. He extended his hand. Dominic Marchetti. The name meant nothing to me, but the way he said it, like it carried weight in rooms I'd never entered, made my pulse quicken. I shook his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength in his grip. What kind of business are you in, Dominic? His smile was small, almost sad. The kind that keeps men like your ex-husband awake at night. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket, glancing at the screen. Whatever he saw made his jaw tighten. I have to go, he said abruptly. There's a situation downstairs that requires my attention. He crossed to the desk, pulling out a small card and writing something on the back. When he handed it to me, I saw it was completely black except for a phone number embossed in silver. If he bothers you again, or if you need anything, call that number, day or night. I stared at the card, feeling the weight of the offer. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Dominic's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Let's just say I have a particular dislike for men who don't understand what no means. He moved to the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. Take the service elevator. It's at the end of the hall on your right. It'll bring you directly to the parking garage, away from the main event. Dominic? He turned back, and I forced myself to meet those intense green eyes. Thank you. For everything. He nodded once, then disappeared into the hallway, leaving me alone in his suite with a glass of whiskey and a business card that felt like a key to a door I wasn't sure I should open. I stayed in the chair for another 10 minutes, letting my heart rate return to normal. The whiskey helped, as did the solid presence of the locked door between me and Derek. Finally I stood, smoothing my dress and gathering what remained of my composure. The service elevator was exactly where Dominic said it would be. I wrote it down in silence, alone except for my reflection in the polished steel doors. I looked pale, my mascara slightly smudged, but otherwise intact, as if the last 30 minutes had been some fever dream. But the card in my clutch was real. I pulled it out as I walked to my car, running my thumb over the embossed numbers. No name, no company logo, just a phone number and the faint scent of cedar that clung to everything Dominic touched. I should have thrown it away, should have gone home, taken a bath, and forgotten this entire night ever happened. Instead, I slipped it carefully into my wallet, right next to my driver's license where I'd see it every day. The drive home to my Lincoln Park apartment took 20 minutes. Long enough for my hands to stop shaking. Long enough to replay every moment of my encounter with Dominic Marchetti. The gun, the whiskey, the way he'd dismissed Derek like he was nothing more than an annoying insect, who carried a gun to a charity gala, who had that kind of casual, terrifying authority. I parked in my building's underground garage and took the elevator to the 14th floor, my heels clicking on the marble lobby floor. The night doorman, Richard, waved as I passed. "Evening, Ms. Reeves. Good event?" "Interesting," I replied, managing a smile. "Very interesting." My apartment felt too quiet after the chaos of the hotel. I locked the door behind me, deadbolt, chain, and the additional security bar I'd installed after Derek showed up drunk at 2 a.m. 3 months ago. Only then did I kick off my heels and collapse onto my couch. The city glittered outside my windows, Chicago spreading out in all directions like a carpet of light. Somewhere out there, Dominic Marchetti was dealing with his situation. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably drowning his humiliation in another scotch. And somewhere between those two men, I sat in my empty apartment, holding a mysterious business card and wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life, or stumbled into something that might finally set me free. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. "This isn't over, Emma. That asshole can't protect you forever." My finger hovered over the delete button, but something stopped me. Instead, I opened my wallet and pulled out the black card. The numbers seemed to pulse in the dim light of my living room, like a heartbeat, like a promise. I saved the number in my phone under a simple initial, D. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, changed into pajamas, and tried to convince myself that I wouldn't call, that I didn't need a dangerous stranger's help, that I could handle Derek on my own, the way I'd been handling him for months. But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I knew I was lying to myself. Because for the first time since my divorce, someone had made Derek back down. Someone had looked at my situation and offered real help, no questions asked. And God help me. I wanted to see Dominic Marchetti again. 3 days passed. Derek didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up at my office during lunch. It was the longest silence I'd had from him in 8 months, and I knew exactly who to thank. I went through my routine, work, gym, groceries, repeat. But everything felt different now. Colors seemed sharper, sounds clearer. I caught myself checking my phone more often, though I wasn't sure what I was waiting for. On Thursday evening, I was leaving Whole Foods with a bag of groceries when I felt it again. That prickle at the back of my neck that said I was being watched. I spun around, scanning the parking lot. No Derek. But there was a black SUV with tinted windows idling near the entrance, its engine running. My heart kicked up. I forced myself to walk normally to my car, keys already in hand. The SUV didn't move as I loaded my groceries, didn't follow when I pulled out onto Clark Street. Paranoia, I told myself. Just paranoia. But when I got home and found a small package outside my apartment door, I knew it wasn't paranoia at all. The box was plain brown cardboard, my name written on top in elegant script. No return address, no postage. Someone had hand-delivered it. I brought it inside, my hands slightly unsteady as I opened it. Inside was a burner phone. Cheap, disposable, already charged, and a note on heavy cardstock. "Use this if you need to reach me. Your regular phone isn't secure. D." I stared at the phone for a long time, my mind racing. How did he know where I lived? How had he gotten past building security? And what did he mean by not secure? The burner phone sat on my kitchen counter for 2 hours while I made dinner, ate, cleaned up. I tried to ignore it, failed spectacularly. Finally, at 9:30, I picked it up. There was only one number programmed in the contacts. I hit dial before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the second ring. Emma. Just my name, but the way he said it, low and certain, like he'd been expecting my call, sent a shiver down my spine. How did you know where I live? I asked, skipping pleasantries. I make it my business to know things. No apology, no excuse, just fact. Has he contacted you since Saturday? A text, nothing else. I leaned against my counter, staring out at the city lights. Why did you send me a burner phone? Because your ex-husband is having you followed. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? The black SUV in the Whole Foods parking lot. The sedan that's been parked across from your building for the last 3 days. He's tracking you, Emma. Probably has been for months. My legs went weak. I slid down to the floor, my back against the cabinet. How do you know this? Because I've been watching the men watching you. His tone was matter of fact, as if this was completely normal. Semi-professional. Private investigators, most likely. They're not trying to hide anymore, which means Derek wants you to know he's keeping tabs. Oh God. I pressed my free hand to my forehead, trying to process. That's illegal. I have a restraining order. Restraining orders are pieces of paper. They don't stop determined men. A pause. But I can. Why? The question burst out of me. Why do you care about my problems? We spent 30 minutes together. You don't owe me anything. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. When Dominic spoke again, his voice was quieter, more personal. My mother spent 10 years married to a man who thought he owned her. When she finally got the courage to leave, he made her life hell, followed her, threatened her, made sure she knew he was always watching. Another pause. She died in a car accident when I was 15. The brakes failed. Jesus, I whispered. The police ruled it mechanical failure, but I knew better. I've always known better. The steel returned to his voice. So when I see a man like your ex-husband thinking he can terrorize a woman just because she had the audacity to leave him, yeah, I care. Call it a character flaw. I closed my eyes, feeling tears prick at the corners. I'm sorry about your mother. Don't be sorry. Be smart. All business now. Do you have somewhere you can go? Family? Friends out of state? I can't just leave my life, Dominic. I have a job, responsibilities. Then you need protection. Real protection. Not a piece of paper from a judge. A beat. I can provide that. What kind of protection are we talking about? The kind that makes private investigators find other employment. The kind that sends a very clear message to your ex-husband that you're off limits. His voice dropped lower. The kind you don't ask too many questions about. My pulse hammered in my throat. This was insane. I was talking to a man I barely knew about protection that probably involved things I didn't want to contemplate. The rational part of my brain screamed at me to hang up, block the number, forget this had ever happened. But the part of me that had lived in fear for 8 months, that had changed my routine, my gym, my entire life to avoid Derek and still failed. That part was desperate enough to consider it. I can't afford. I'm not asking for money, Emma. Then what are you asking for? The pause that followed felt loaded with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Trust, he said finally. I'm asking you to trust me. I laughed, but it came out shaky. That's a pretty big ask from someone who pointed a gun at me 3 days ago. Fair point. I could hear the smile in his voice. How about this? Meet me for coffee tomorrow. 11 a.m., the Starbucks on Michigan Avenue near Millennium Park. Public place, lots of witnesses. You can ask me anything you want, and then you can decide if you trust me or not. And if I decide I don't, then I'll make sure the surveillance on you stops, and you'll never hear from me again. He sounded sincere. Either way, you'll be safer than you are right now. I tilted my head back against the cabinet, weighing my options. The smart choice was obvious. Thank him politely, hang up, call a real security company in the morning. But something about Dominic made me want to be reckless. 11 a.m., I heard myself say. I'll be there. Good. Relief colored his tone, subtle but unmistakable. Emma? Yeah? Don't tell anyone about this meeting. Not your friends, not your coworkers. No one. Why? Because the fewer people who know about our connection, the safer you are. A pause. And the safer I am. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat on my kitchen floor for another 20 minutes, the burner phone clutched in my hand. Outside my window, Chicago carried on. Oblivious, indifferent, alive. Somewhere in those streets, men were watching my building. Somewhere, Derek was planning his next move. And somewhere, Dominic Marchetti was doing something I couldn't quite name but desperately needed. I pulled myself up and walked to my bedroom, setting an alarm for tomorrow morning. As I brushed my teeth and changed into pajamas, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. My reflection looked different somehow, less defeated, less small. For the first time in months, I looked like a woman who had options. Even if those options came with guns and burner phones and questions I was afraid to ask. The next morning dawned cold and clear, October in Chicago showing its teeth. I dressed carefully, jeans, a cream sweater, boots. Nothing too professional, nothing too casual. I wanted to look like myself, whoever that was these days. The Starbucks was already crowded when I arrived at 10:55. I spotted Dominic immediately, sitting at a corner table with his back to the wall, a position that let him watch both the entrance and the windows. He wore a charcoal sweater and dark jeans, looking more approachable than he had in the hotel suite, but no less dangerous. He stood as I approached, pulling out my chair before I could do it myself. Up close, in daylight, he was even more striking. Those green eyes tracked my every movement with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. "You came," he said, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. I said I would. I sat, folding my hands on the table. Though I'm still not entirely sure why. A barista appeared with 2 cups, a latte for me, black coffee for him. I raised an eyebrow. "You ordered for me. You had a vanilla latte at the hotel." I took a guess. He pushed the cup toward me. "If I'm wrong, I'll get you something else." I took a sip. Perfect temperature, right amount of foam. "Lucky guess." "I don't believe in luck." He leaned back in his chair, completely at ease despite the crowd around us. "I believe in observation." "So you observe people for a living?" "Among other things." He took a drink of his coffee, never breaking eye contact. "You have questions. Ask them." I did. God, I had so many. But the one that came out surprised me. "Why were you really at the Sinclair Gala?" "I was meeting someone, a business associate who prefers public venues for negotiations." "What kind of business?" "Import, export." The answer was smooth, practiced. A lie that sounded like truth. "That's vague." "It needs to be." He set down his cup. "But I'll tell you this much. I work in logistics and conflict resolution for people who need problems to disappear quietly. I'm very good at making things disappear." The implications hung between us like smoke. I should have been terrified, should have grabbed my latte and run. Instead, I found myself leaning forward. "Things," I repeated. "Not people. Never people. I'm not in that business." His expression hardened. "But yes, I operate in gray areas. I deal with men who exist outside the law. I solve problems that can't be solved through official channels." "You're telling me you're a criminal." "I'm telling you I'm useful." He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of mine. "And right now, you need someone useful more than you need someone clean." My breath caught. Because he was right. I'd tried clean. I'd tried the police, the lawyers, the restraining orders. None of it had worked. Derek was still out there, still watching, still convinced I belonged to him. "What do you want from me?" I asked quietly. "Really?" Dominic's gaze softened fractionally. "Honestly, I don't know yet." He pulled his hand back. "Maybe I just want to be the kind of man who helps when he can. Maybe I see myself in your situation and need to prove it doesn't always end badly. Or maybe—" He stopped, something flickering across his face too quickly to identify. "Maybe what?" "Maybe I'm tired of only knowing broken things," he said softly. "And you don't look broken. Scared, yes. Angry, but not broken." The words hit somewhere deep in my chest, in a place I'd tried to keep locked since the divorce. Because he was right. I wasn't broken. Battered, maybe. Exhausted, definitely. But something in me had refused to shatter, even when Derek did everything he could to crush it. "Okay," I said, surprising myself. "Say I trust you. Say I accept your help. What happens next?" Dominic straightened. "All business now. First, we get you somewhere Derek can't find you. A safe house. Comfortable, secure, just for a few days while I handle the immediate problem. The private investigators, among other things." His jaw tightened. "I'm also going to have a conversation with Derek. Make sure he understands that his surveillance, his harassment, all of it stops now. And if he doesn't listen, he'll listen." The certainty in Dominic's voice was absolute. Chilling. Men like your ex-husband are bullies. They only respect power, and they only back down when they meet someone scarier than they are. And you're scarier than Derek. Much. No arrogance, just fact. But I'm also controlled. I won't hurt him unless he forces my hand. This is about sending a message, not starting a war. I wrapped both hands around my latte, trying to absorb everything he was saying. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Sitting in Starbucks discussing safe houses and intimidation tactics with a beautiful stranger who might be a criminal. The other part wanted to cry with relief that someone, anyone, was finally taking me seriously. "I have work," I said weakly. "I can't just disappear. Call in sick, family emergency, whatever you need to say." He pulled out his phone, typing quickly. "My associate will pack a bag from your apartment. Clothes, toiletries, anything you need. You won't have to go back there until it's safe." "Your associate is breaking into my apartment?" "Your locks are surprisingly easy to bypass." At my expression, he added, "I had someone check the building's security after I dropped off the phone. Your doorman takes a smoke break every day at 2:15. The back entrance has a broken camera. You're vulnerable, Emma. That needed to be assessed." A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the October air. "You've been planning this." "I've been preparing for variables." He met my eyes. "The question is, are you ready to let me help you?" This was it. The moment where I either walked away or jumped into something I didn't fully understand. The smart choice was obvious. The safe choice. But I'd been choosing safe for 8 months, and it had gotten me nowhere except more afraid. "Yes," I whispered. "Help me." Dominic's expression shifted. Satisfaction mixed with something darker, more possessive. He reached across the table, and this time, his hand covered mine completely. His palm was warm, calloused, steady. "Then we start now," he said. "Finish your coffee. We're leaving in 5 minutes." "Leaving where?" "Somewhere Derek will never find you." He stood, pulling me gently to my feet. Through the window, I saw the black SUV pull up to the curb. The same one from the parking lot. My stomach dropped. "Relax," Dominic murmured, his hand moving to the small of my back. "That one's mine." The SUV door opened, revealing a driver in a dark suit. Tall, muscular, with a scar running through his left eyebrow. He nodded respectfully to Dominic. "Ms. Reeves," Dominic said, his voice carrying that tone of absolute authority I was beginning to recognize. "Meet Marco. He'll be driving us today." I let Dominic guide me to the vehicle, my mind spinning. This was happening. Actually happening. As I slid into the leather back seat, I caught my reflection in the tinted window, wide-eyed, uncertain, but determined. Dominic settled beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. The door closed with a solid thunk, sealing us in. "Where are we going?" I asked as Marco pulled into traffic. Dominic looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something raw in his expression. Something that looked almost like hope. "Somewhere safe," he said. "I promise." And despite everything, the guns, the secrets, the world of shadows I was stepping into, I believed him. The drive took us out of downtown, heading north toward the suburbs. I watched the city give way to tree-lined streets and elegant homes, my anxiety building with each mile. Dominic made a few calls in Italian, rapid-fire conversations I couldn't follow, but that sounded like orders being given and confirmed. After 30 minutes, we pulled through gates that opened automatically, revealing a sprawling estate hidden behind mature oaks. The house was modern but understated, glass and stone, designed to blend with the landscape rather than dominate it. "This is yours?" I asked as Marco parked near the front entrance. "One of several properties." Dominic opened my door, offering his hand. "No one knows about this place except my most trusted people. You'll be safe here." The interior was just as impressive. High ceilings, neutral colors, expensive furniture that managed to look comfortable rather than ostentatious. A woman in her 50s appeared from a side hallway, her kind face creasing into a smile when she saw us. "Mr. Marchetti," she said warmly, "your guest room is ready." "Thank you, Rosa." Dominic's hand remained on my back, guiding me forward. "This is Emma. She'll be staying with us for a few days." Rosa's smile widened. "Welcome, dear. Can I get you anything? Tea? Something to eat?" "I'm fine, thank you." I managed to return her smile, though my nerves were singing. Dominic led me upstairs to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. French doors opened onto a private balcony overlooking manicured gardens. The bed was enormous, dressed in white linens that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Rosa will bring your things when they arrive," Dominic said, watching me take in the room. "There's a bathroom through that door, a closet, anything you might need. If you want something that isn't here, just ask." I turned to face him, suddenly aware that we were alone in a bedroom, that I'd just agreed to stay in a stranger's house based on nothing but instinct and desperation. "Dominic, I know what you're thinking." He stepped closer, his presence filling the space between us. "You're wondering if you've made a terrible mistake. If I'm just another man trying to control you. Have I? No." He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear with surprising gentleness. "I'm not Derek. I'm not here to cage you or own you. I'm here because I meant what I said. You deserve to feel safe, and I can give you that." His touch sent electricity through my skin. This close, I could see gold flecks in his green eyes, could smell that cedar scent that clung to him. "What if I want to leave?" I whispered. "Then you leave. No questions. No consequences." His hand dropped away. "You're not a prisoner, Emma. You're a guest. The difference matters to me." I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. "Okay," I said softly. "Thank you. For all of this." Dominic's expression shifted, something warm and almost vulnerable passing across his features. "Get some rest. I have things to handle, but I'll be back for dinner. We'll talk more then." He left me alone in the beautiful room, closing the door quietly behind him. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my legs finally giving out from the adrenaline crash. What had I just done? Through the window, I could see Dominic and Marco talking in the driveway, their body language serious. Then they both climbed into the SUV and disappeared down the tree-lined drive. I was alone in a stranger's house. A stranger who carried guns and made men like Derek back down with a single look. A stranger who might be the most dangerous choice I'd ever made. But as I lay back on the impossibly soft bed and stared at the ceiling, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. And underneath that relief, something more dangerous. The first stirrings of trust. Outside, the October sun filtered through the trees, casting shadows that danced across the walls. Somewhere in Chicago, Derek was probably losing his mind trying to find me. But here, in this moment, I was safe, and that had to be enough, for now.